Okay, so for this lecture, we're going to look at purifying drinking water and ocean pollution. So when we look at our drinking water in developed countries, we're pretty lucky. We have systems that are in place already for the cleaning of this water, or most areas have fairly decent groundwater that they can draw on in aquifers up to their house. So for developed countries, how do we really purify it? Well, for starters, you have large reservoirs, which is like a huge lake pretty much that lets the water sit in it. Sediment drops to the bottom, and then water treatment plants pull that water in, clean it, and then it goes out as sewer water. At your house, if you draw with a well pump, if you draw water out of the ground, as water moves through the soil, it is naturally purified. So it comes out of the ground not what you would assume. It's actually fairly clean by the time it gets down into these aquifers. Some other ways that developed countries can purify their drinking water is making sure to protect these watersheds and wetlands. If you remember, a watershed is an area where water drains into larger bodies of water. So as it rains, it hits the ground, and any area that that water runs into either a lake or a river system, that's considered your watershed. So the cleaner you can keep that, the less pollution, the cleaner that water will be overall. And then if we need to use that water, it takes less chemicals to treat it and less filtering to make sure it's viable for us to drink. We also want to preserve our wetlands because they are natural detoxifiers. As that water moves through wetlands, it pulls all the poisons out of it and makes it not as lethal and much cleaner. We also purify sewer water or wastewater before it's released back into our river systems. So especially city sewers, even stuff that's hooked up to houses, some areas that are in high volume, meaning high population numbers, that water will be treated in a sewer system plant or sewer plant and or wastewater plant, you can also call it that, and then discharged into the environment. So it's taken care of and it doesn't make water systems collapse because it's so dirty. My question to you is, would you be comfortable knowing your drinking water was previously waste or sewer water? A lot of people say no. And a lot of areas always think about that idea of, can we just turn sewer water and wastewater directly into drinking water and have the public be okay with it? And this kind of does happen. Sewer treatment plants clean the water, discharge it, and then we take that water from river systems or groundwater and then purify it again and send it right through the tap. So it's kind of happening. It's just not a direct from the sewer plants directly into the household. Okay, less developed countries, they drink the water that's in their immediate area if they have it. So some of the things they can do, if there's microbes in the water, they can put a clear plastic bottle out in the sun, and that sun will kill it. Kind of like photo remediation, using sunlight to remediate that water, kill it. They do have these things called life straws, and if we were in class right now, I would show you. I would actually drink from it if we went out to the river system. I've done it for all my classes in the past. And you can also, or they can also have something like these pure packets, and you can take really, really dirty water. You put it's a very, very light chlorinated powder, really. It's almost like a bleach solution powder. And that will drop all the sediments to the bottom of the water, and it will kill all the microbes in it, and you're left with fairly clean drinking water, much cleaner than what you would normally be drinking. So the pure packets and a life straw especially has given these kids the opportunity to have healthy water going inside of them rather than pathogens, and pathogens that get inside of the body produce dehydration, and dehydration leads to a lot of problems. One being that these kids get very, very sick. And if they're dehydrated, that just adds more and more to it, and they go downhill much faster and can't get treatment. So we've set up laws back in the 70s, the U.S. Safe Drinking Water Act, meaning that we need to set standards to the water that people are drinking and make sure that they fit in them. So city water is tested let's say in a given month, hundreds of times, if not more. So every few hours at a water treatment plant, even maybe even every hour at a treatment plant, water's being tested to make sure it fits those EPA standards. And if it's not, they obviously have to make changes. But it's good to know that our water system and our drinking water systems are evaluated on a hourly, maybe even more than that basis to make sure that the water that's coming into your house is clean. Okay, those that have well water, you should, or your family should have that tested every once in a while, just to make sure that there's no pathogens and toxins really coming up through the pipes. Anything is possible. You may have a UV light that water passes through that kills any pathogens that may be in that water, but it's always worth checking to make sure all the systems are working properly. I ask this question every year: which element found in plumbing pipe has been looked at more closely in recent years? And that is lead. And lead can really affect the nervous system. It's a neural blocker, and we've seen a lot of developmental issues in young children with that, especially in cities that have aging pipes. Okay. When we look at ocean pollution, we're just going to go through this really quickly. Most of the pollution originates on land. You will see a lot of that pollution just make its way in after a heavy rain, or people just polluting on their own, sewer systems being dumped into rivers without being treated, and you get low dissolved oxygen levels, and you get a dead zone. Okay, that causes a huge effect on the water system, because one, it can kill fish, right? You can have those fish kills, but the other thing it does to think about is that if you are someone that catches fish or goes out fishing, you have to go out even further now to get away from these dead zones where fish are actually living. So that also causes the price of food to go up, because it's going to take more money for you to go and find and get those fish. Okay, you have farm runoffs, you have urban sprawl, which just adds to more and more pollution, and then you obviously have industrial pollution as well. Okay, one of the biggest things we look at is this thing called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. We've actually found multiple garbage patches. This was the first one that was kind of seen, and due to the circulation of the ocean, these patches move to the west, and then they come back to the east, and they just keep going and going and going. And these things are enormous, and there's actually huge projects out there as to how to clean up this ocean water. A lot of it comes from fishing vessels when their ropes and their fishing gear gets cut loose or breaks. It just floats around in the ocean, and sure enough, it becomes part of this garbage patch, and animals get caught in it. A lot of animals are eating these plastics and these pieces of pollution, and they're mounting up inside of these organisms, and they're dying from it. And we're actually consuming some of it as well. So what we're putting into the water system, we're actually consuming in some of the food that we consume, that we take in. Okay, this is just another look at it. If you want to pause and read through this, you can. And then the last thing we look at is something called microbeads, which is a good thing these were banned. These were tiny, tiny little plastic beads that they put in a lot of different products, some of it in cleaning products, and they used to say, oh, it exfoliates the skin, or it releases the oils from your skin so you get a deeper clean. And then they started to realize that so many of these were getting trapped inside of these animals. They were actually getting like plastic toxicity inside of them, and they were dying from it. And like I said before, it's winding back up on our dinner plates, and we're consuming